Elmer Fudd.
Oh, well, I'm looking for rabbits.
And the rabbit he was looking for was the most famous of all characters, Bugs Bunny.
Hey, thanks very much, Doc. I'm glad you like him, too.
Mel Blanc usually brings to mind Bugs Bunny leaning on a carrot, Daffy Duck exploding over a lisp, Porky Pig stammering into "That's all, folks," and half the cartoon voices that made Saturday mornings feel alive. But in January 1961, the man behind those voices nearly vanished in a crash so violent that Hollywood had to imagine what Looney Tunes and the Flintstones would sound like without him. Blanc was not just another performer with a clever trick. He was a one-man sound department, a radio veteran, a Warner Brothers regular, and the living engine behind characters millions of viewers thought of as almost real. Before we start, drop a comment. Tell us which Mel Blanc character you heard first: Bugs, Daffy, Barney Rubble, or someone else entirely. Today, we're going to talk about the car accident that should have killed Mel Blanc, but didn't. The voice before the crash.
What's up, David?
That's a great sweater you have there.
Oh, thank you very much. I like it, too.
Yeah. Now, that's not your actual voice, is it?
No, I have a very deep voice.
Do you remember the first voice that you did?
Yes, I do. I remember the first voice I did.
Now, that's your real voice right there.
This is my real voice, yeah. The first voice I ever did was this.
Long before the accident, Mel Blanc had already built a career on disappearing into voices. Born Melvin Jerome Blanc in 1908, he grew up fascinated by dialects, comic sounds, and the strange little noises people make without thinking about them. By the late 1920s, he was working in radio, where one good performer could become a crowd. Blanc could play animals, broken cars, cranky strangers, and oddball side characters, often in the same show. That talent made him valuable before cartoons made him famous. His work with Jack Benny gave listeners one of the first hints of what made him different. When a sound effect for Benny's battered Maxwell automobile failed, Blanc improvised the noise himself. The audience loved it, and a machine suddenly had comic timing. Then came Warner Brothers and the golden age of animation. Blanc became Porky Pig, Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny, Tweety, Sylvester, Yosemite Sam, Foghorn Leghorn, Marvin the Martian, and more. By 1961, losing him would not have meant losing one voice, it would have meant losing an entire cartoon universe. Dead Man's Curve.
They shot to the top, and then one shattering moment brought them down on Dead Man's Curve. Next.
On January 24th, 1961, Blanc was driving alone on Sunset Boulevard when his sports car was struck in a head-on collision. The stretch of road had a grim nickname, Dead Man's Curve, and Blanc's crash would become one of its most famous accidents. The impact was brutal. Blanc suffered serious head injuries, fractures to both legs, and a broken pelvis. For a performer whose body had to be relaxed enough to breathe, shout, squeal, sputter, and sing in character, the injuries were frightening from every angle. He was taken to UCLA Medical Center, where doctors faced a terrifying silence. The man famous for never running out of voices could not answer to his own name. His wife Estelle and son Noel were left waiting beside a hospital bed, hoping for any sign that Mel was still reachable. The accident didn't just scare his family, it rattled radio, animation, and television producers across Los Angeles. The Flintstones was still in production. Warner Brothers still needed its cartoon voices. Blanc's calendar did not have room for a catastrophe, but catastrophe had arrived anyway. Bugs in the hospital.
I had a brain specialist would come in to see me every day that I was unconscious. And he would say, how you feeling today, Mel? I wouldn't answer him. But he got an idea. And one day he came in and he says, hey, Bugs Bunny, how are you? And I answered him. Just fine, Doc. How are you? Now, this sounds like a real fish story, but it's true because my wife and son were there. Noel and Estelle, they watched, actually, me come out of my coma and talk like Bugs Bunny.
For roughly 2 weeks, Blanc remained unresponsive. Doctors spoke to him. His family spoke to him. Nothing seemed to cut through. Then a neurologist tried something unusual, almost absurd enough to sound like a cartoon gag. Instead of speaking to Mel Blanc, the doctor spoke to Bugs Bunny. The question was simple. How are you feeling today, Bugs Bunny? After a pause, the patient answered weakly in character. Just fine, Doc. How are you? The story has been retold for decades because it sounds impossible. Yet it fits the strange truth of Blanc's life. His characters were not costumes he put on once in a while. They were pathways he had carved into his voice, memory, timing, and personality through years of repetition. The doctor reportedly tried Tweety as well, and Blanc responded again. It did not magically heal him, and it did not turn recovery into a fairy tale, but it gave the people around him something priceless, proof that somewhere inside the silence, Mel Blanc was still there. Recording from bed.
In a way, I am an unusual rabbit on account of, instead of having hundreds of children, like your ordinary run-of-the-mill rabbit, I had several fathers. And, of course, a father named Mel Blanc, who had thousands of voices and was nice enough to give me one of them.
Blanc's recovery was long, painful, and physically awkward. He returned home in March, but home did not mean normal. He was still dealing with broken bones, casts, limited movement, and the practical problem of how a working voice actor could work while barely able to move. The answer was pure show business problem solving. For the Flintstones, recording equipment was brought to his hospital room and later to his home. Cast members gathered around him while Blanc lay flat on his back, still playing Barney Rubble from inside a body cast. For a modern viewer, that image is almost surreal. The cheerful Stone Age sitcom was being made partly around a badly injured man in a bed, giving life to Fred Flintstone's best friend, while his own body was still healing from a wreck. There were temporary substitutes. Dawes Butler filled in as Barney for a few episodes. Other performers covered bits and pieces elsewhere. But producers knew there was no easy replacement for Blanc. Plenty of people could imitate a catchphrase. Very few could supply the rhythm, breath, and comic instinct behind it. The road gets changed.
This is Dead Man's Curve. Cars would come down this section of road, approaching what was well known as Dead Man's Curve. Over here there was a sign. The sign said 15 miles an hour maximum speed.
The crash also moved beyond Hollywood. 4 days after he returned home, Blanc filed a $500,000 lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles. The issue was not only his accident. Reports pointed to a dangerous pattern at that stretch of Sunset Boulevard. Blanc's crash was described as one of 26 accidents in that area over the previous 2 years. That number helped turn a private tragedy into a public safety issue. Dead Man's Curve was no longer just a spooky nickname or a piece of local lore. The city eventually funded changes to the curves at the location. In that sense, the crash that nearly ended Blanc's life also forced attention onto a road problem that had apparently been waiting for a famous victim to make it impossible to ignore. Blanc returned to public work with crutches, a wheelchair, and the stubbornness of someone who had already spent decades making impossible sounds seem effortless. By late 1961, he was appearing again, including on Jack Benny's Christmas program. The voices had survived, and so had the man behind them. Back to the microphone.
What's up, Doc? Having any luck with those ducks? It's duck season, you know.
Just a darn minute. Where do you get that duck season stuff?
What makes the story so strange is that Blanc's career did not become a quiet afterward. He kept working for decades, voicing Warner Brothers characters, Hanna-Barbera roles, commercials, specials, and later projects that introduced his voices to new generations. His post-accident work included Barney Rubble, Mr. Spacely, Speed Buggy, Captain Caveman, and continued appearances as Bugs, Daffy, Porky, Tweety, and Sylvester. The accident could have split his career into before and after. Instead, it became one astonishing chapter inside a much longer run. There were changes, of course. Recovery affects the body, and a voice is part of the body. But Blanc's gift was not only vocal range, it was control, timing, personality, and the ability to make a line sound like it belonged to a creature who had existed forever. That's why the accident still fascinates people. It was not just a celebrity survival story. It was the moment the world nearly lost Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Barney Rubble, and half the voices hiding in the attic of American pop culture.
Mel Blanc, the man who gave his voice to cartoon characters such as Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, died today in Los Angeles at the age of 81.
Now it's time to hear from you. Which part of Mel Blanc's survival story surprises you the most? The doctor reaching him through Bugs Bunny, the hospital recordings for the Flintstones, or the fact that one crash nearly silenced so many famous characters at once? Let us know in the comments section below.